known as Victoria. I'm one of the peculiar people. This is a public service announcement on October the 19th, 2022. I'm going to be speaking aloud common law high court judgments against all public servants, all persons who have committed acts of genocide against myself and my family. So in this first document here, you're going to see the rules of the court where these matters were adjudicated. The arrogant are not permitted to be part of these judicial proceedings, and that constitutes all the guilty male and female humans who have committed acts of genocide against myself and my family. Because according to the humans, let's take a look at this. This is from June 17th, 2016, the right of access to justice under the rule of law guaranteeing an effective remedy. 24 pages of absolute garbage written by the wicked. And as it's written in Jeremiah 13:10, Ezekiel 15:6, and Hosea 7:16, the wicked are absolutely useless. And that's exactly who's come at me to kidnap my son and sell him to pedophiles. And then that's exactly who's come at me to steal my home and embezzle the entire estate. 2 acts of genocide in less than a decade. So, unfortunately for Johnny Van Camp, Rebecca Watmont, Robert Punnett, and Carolyn Book, the judgments against you are that you're guilty of genocide. So let's take a look at here, because the persons pretending to be the Supreme Court of Canada affirm the access to justice and freedom of expression. Let's take a look at this. July 20th, 2022, Supreme Court of Canada affirms access to justice and freedom of expression. So you go right ahead and read this. Law and legal have nothing to do with each other, by the way. Access to justice in Canada and BC. This is written by those who pose as a marginalized group. Access to justice in Canada and BC. Now, they're talking about legal. Legal is for dead entities. Law is for living men and women. So I'm about to adjudicate and speak judgment according to law. I'm not going to be involved in anything legal, because legal is witchcraft, and those who practice legal are witches. So you go ahead and read that. If you haven't read the first act of genocide, forced adoption is murder, that PDF, you're going to have to go in and read that. Now, there's a $1 billion class action suit that's been filed against this thing acting as the Attorney General of Canada and this thing acting as the Manitoba government. You can go in and read that. On page 105, on Victoria's right of survivorship, what you're going to notice is no person acting as the registrar has actually signed the writ of possession, and yet it has the horse court seal stamp on it. So you can't put a court seal on any legal piece of paper that doesn't have a proper signature on it. So that's why I'm going down to the courthouse to use the court seal whenever I fucking feel like it, and no one's going to stop me. No one's going to fucking touch me. You better not even fucking look at me sideways, because I've had enough. I've had right fucking past enough. And I'm going home. I'm kicking the trespassers off my property. And the fucking witch is acting as Victoria PD, and the witch is acting as Saanich PD can go fuck themselves. So you open up all these documents here. So anyway, I'm going to write up documents. They're going to go before the person acting as justice of the peace, and that individual is going to sign off on everything that I'm doing without question, without argument. You're just going to fucking put the stamps on it. You're going to get all the circus monkeys to perform their circus monkey duties, and these matters are going to move very quickly. Right? Because this is genocide. You've committed, in a decade, 2 acts of genocide. And these are the legal rules pertaining to genocide. And so everything that you see listed here in the red box, this has all been done to murder me. Yet again. So all the persons involved in genocide are going to prison for life, including all those who knew what was happening and sat there and did nothing about it. David Eby, Brock Martlin. You get that? And because what you've done is you've committed a hate crime. And there's no minimum punishment for hate crime because a hate crime is an act of genocide. And because you're not men and women, you're animals, you're humans legally defined as monsters. Men and women, the peculiar people, are the ones with jurisdiction over you animals. And I've explained that to you 1,000 different times. So we're going to go in here to what's going on. Because Melissa Gillespie is also guilty of aiding and abetting an act of genocide against me. So let's see what the law speaks about the judgment written against witches, because a bar member is a witch. So Exodus 22:18, you are not permitted to live. Deuteronomy 18:10, again, you're not permitted to live. Isaiah 57:3, unfortunately, you're finished. Revelation 22:15, outside are the dogs, the witches, the sexually, you know what I mean. That's basically who I'm dealing with at all material times. So I will draw near to you in judgment as one of the peculiar people speaks. I'll be swift witnesses against witches. In Canada here, your politicians are witches. All of your bar members in Canada are witches. Most of your public servants here in Canada are witches. Your priests are for sure witches. Let's see here. The errant are not permitted to stand. In the King's Common Law High Court, he wouldn't even listen to a word that you had to say. He wasn't interested in your lies, aka your defenses. And by the way, the rules of evidence are you have to speak for yourself. There's no hearsay in the Common Law High Court. In the King's Common Law High Court, the highest court in the world, there is no hearsay. There are no dead persons. There are no corporations in the King's Common Law High Court. So all the witches who've committed acts of genocide against me, you can't hire a witch to speak for you because that proves that you're already dead. That proves that you're already incompetent. And here's what the law says. This is law. These are commands. You're not getting around these. And I'm here to make sure the King's will is followed here on earth as it is in heaven. Didn't my brother teach you that when he taught you to pray? Then due to the false witness, as that witness intended to do to the other party, you must purge the evil from among you. So what was the intent on kidnapping my son and selling him to pedophiles? It's to murder my son and I. So what's the intent of witches to steal my home and embezzle all the money, committing acts of genocide? Well, the intent is to murder me, which is why the judgment that I'm about to speak to you is in full force and effect. Because it is written here that it's a commandment to purge the evil from among me. So let's take a look at here and what's going to happen here, because we've got some. So let's look and see here what's gone on. Now, this is a court record access request form for criminal and civil proceedings. So this is an application. This is paperwork that the circus monkeys need to see. So these file numbers here are pertaining to the kidnapping of my son and his subsequent trafficking, his child trafficking, which is an act of genocide. So the access is unlimited. I have full access. Because I tell you, public servants, what to do. You don't tell me what's going on. I tell you what's going on. So this has all been filled out. The determination has already been granted. The determination is I have unlimited access immediately to everything and anything pertaining to the trafficking of my son, my biological real property. So that means I have full access to all court records, all court exhibits, and all audio recordings pertaining to the genocide committed against my son and myself. And so this has been signed. That means it's in full force and effect. So I need to know where all of this property is being held because I'm going to pick it up. Or Johnny Van Camp, you witch, you'll be putting all this information together and you and I will be meeting and you will be handing me over all of this property because that's my property. And let's see here. Here's another record request. Now, this is for the court records, the exhibits, and the audio recordings pertaining to the last acts of genocide committed against me by CIBC agents, and BC Supreme Court agents. You're going to be handing me, Johnny Van Camp, you're charged with handing me over everything pertaining to that act of genocide, Johnny. And Johnny, that order's in full force and effect. You arrogant abominations don't have any jurisdiction over that property because it's a committal of indictable crimes in Canada, the act of genocide. So you're going to be handing me all of it, Johnny, because you and I are going to need to be going to the doctor's office anyway. And so here is the private information documentation. This is the convening of the King's Common Law High Court and truthful deposition information of myself, who identifies as the King of Kings Council. I identify as a righteous woman and one of the chosen, member of the peculiar people, and right of access to justice, creating special appearance. I, appointed and trained counselor, identify as special prosecutor of the trespassers named herein, this information to be lawfully adjudicated directly in the King's Common Law High Court of Natural Law, Justice, and Judgment, in Canada's agreement with and party to the Convention on all in Canada's agreement with and party to the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. I, woman of from above foreign jurisdiction, the Honorable myself, hold a right to notify and demand full peaceful cooperation of federal and provincial public servants pursuant to each person's responsibility, obligation, and duty to enforce defenses above named provided by international conventions and covenants to I, member of the hated peculiar people, thus identified at all times as in need of protection. I must be addressed by the public at all material times as counselor to stand under this private special prosecutor occupation of and for the King of Kings. I, woman, victim of indictable crimes, have knowledge of proof, therefore probable grounds to charge, hence am charging forthwith for criminal prosecution named herein, male and or female human offenders, trespassers. So I'm going to fill out all these forms. What I'm also going to do is fill out the judgment, which the Justice of the Peace will be signing immediately. Right, because we have judgments here. We have judgments here because according to the King of Kings, all individuals who are guilty of kidnapping my son and selling him, according to the law, must be put to death. And all the persons who have committed genocide against me and my spouse by stealing my home and embezzling all the money also have to be put to death. And there's a wonderful, wonderful service here in Canada. It's called assisted suicide. It's legal. And that's exactly what's going to be happening to each and every one of you, including over about a dozen mindless maggots acting as Saanich PD. Mike Duquette. Yeah, Jeff Bevington. Yeah, we're going to need to go to the doctor's office because I need to witness you filling out these forms. So does someone have to have a terminal illness to qualify for medical assistance in dying? No. No, actually you don't need to have a terminal illness to qualify for medical assistance in dying. Isn't that wonderful to hear? Let's see here. So a group of alleged experts in Canadian law and medicine wrote, C7 will allow physicians to end the life of those with disabilities or chronic illness at their request and will require the system to ensure it happens even when physicians are convinced based on their expert knowledge, as if that medicine offers options, and even when the patient may have years or decades to live with a good quality of life if other options are explored and tried first. So that's awesome. So let's see here. Who is eligible for assisted death in Canada? Well, every province would be the same, so you must make a written request to receive medical assistance in dying. The written request must be witnessed, signed, and dated by one independent witness. So, to each and every person who kidnapped my son, it had anything to do with the obstruction of justice and the millions of dollars in reparations that are owed to me and my family for that act of genocide, I will be the witness that will be signing and dating your written request for assisted suicide. And that goes for all the arrogant abominations who have now stolen my home and embezzled the entire estate. And it doesn't matter who you are or what you might think that you are. You've committed an act of genocide. You're going to jail for the rest of your life. So since you have no hope and no future, the King of Kings will not allow the persons in Canada standing under the status of taxpayer to house you at a cost of $85,000 per person per year, because there's hundreds of you. And you have no hope and no future. So that's why this is going to be happening to you. Now, I'm going down to the courthouse to stamp a number of foreign judgments. So let's look at this one here. Now, let's see here. Let's look at a different one here. Let's go for... So this is a King's Common Law High Court foreign judgment against the satanic Antichrist cult, calling itself the province of British Columbia, for the 2 acts of genocide that you have committed against me and my family within the last decade. The King of Kings has ordered you to pay my family $730 million for general, special, statutory, punitive, and aggravated damages. And so I'm going to be going down to the courthouse, putting the court stamp on this. It's going to be filed with the BC Securities Commission Public Service Office, who's also going to be forwarding it to the BC Forfeiture Public Service Office. I'm going to be going down to the Minister of Finance's office, and I'm going to be collecting the $730 million forthwith, because that's what you owe for what you've done. And the king is not interested in the opinion of any of the arrogant abominations acting as any type of court here in Canada. He's had quite enough of you. Thank you, you witches and your ugliness. So here's a foreign judgment against the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, because the King of Kings is well aware that you have the ability to pay these damages, and you're going to pay them. Yeah, no, I'm afraid you're going to pay them. That's why the injunction had to be granted before the act of genocide was committed against me, and I did apply for an injunction, and it had to be granted because I was right. Because there's no amount of money that can fix what you've done to me. So $3.7 billion in general, special, statutory, punitive, and aggravated damages is just the start, right? That'll just kind of sort of cover the damages that you've done to me, and you did it willingly and knowingly. You did it with criminal mind. You did it with criminal intent. So no one's getting around this King's Common Law High Court order. And the King of Kings is well aware that the criminal organization, the RICO CIBC, is got billions of dollars they're making every year and can more than provide that amount in compensation to me for what you've done to me. And now let's look at here. There's another one here for the... So the satanic cult pretending to be District of Saanich, there's a $3.7 million judgment against you, right, because you aided and abetted. And you're aiding and abetting trespassers on my private property. And you've been doing that for years. So I'm going down to the courthouse to put the court stamp on this because it's signed, because I identify as a member of the registry. Not only for the King's Common Law High Court, but I also identify as part of the registry for the Supreme Court of British Columbia. And I can identify anyway fucking well how I see fit. And nobody can tell me that I don't identify as what I identify as. Right? Because perception's reality, isn't that right? So the digital signage, I'll be going down to the office that pays the bills, and I'll be collecting this $3.7 million forthwith because I'm finished. I'm finished with you. And now we've got the criminals, Benjamin Howe, Senator Dennis, and Howe Fam Holdings, right? Which I explained to you months ago, what you had to pay because you're in possession of stolen property. You don't have a valid mortgage on my stolen property because CIBC stole my property by way of application and title fraud. So the home is going back into my spouse's name, and it's going to stay there. It's going to stay that way in my spouse's name because that's what the trust fund says. The trust fund has very specific instructions. So not only are you going to pay Benjamin Howe and Senator Dennis, but you also have to go to jail because you're guilty of mischief causing actual danger to my life. And that sentence is imprisonment for life. So no one's above the law. No, I'm afraid you're not, actually, because it says right here in the Multiculturalism Act of Canada that every individual is equal before and under the law and has the right to equal protection and benefit of the law without discrimination, right? Isn't that what it says? Isn't that what all your fucking rules say? So I informed you of all the indictable crimes and all the civil torts. And so you're each responsible. Each person's responsible. There's 3 persons. Benjamin Howe is a person, a thing. Senator Dennis is a person, a thing. And Howe Fam Holdings is a thing. So you're each responsible. So that's why there's the damages of $375,000. And you're going to pay it. And you're going to pay it like right fucking now. So do we understand what's happening? Because I have a law to follow, and I'm the victim. And so the victim is the one who prosecutes. And the victim is the one who goes down and puts the court stamps on all the judgments. Right, because the King of Kings is well aware that all of these persons, all of these fictions are capable of paying these judgments, these foreign judgments. And because those from a foreign jurisdiction are not under the jurisdiction of those from below, you're going to pay these. And you're also going to be, well, you have no choice, right? You have no choice. I'm going to be attending your physician's office with you. Because I'm going to be the witness who's going to be signing and dating your request for medical assistance in dying. Because genocide's a life imprisonment. That's what happens, right? Those are your legal rules. But I'm not subject to the legal rules, only dead entities are. So I'm subject to the law, and I follow the law, and I'm here to make sure the law is followed. Remember what my brother said? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Well, what's the will in the kingdom of heaven? It's eye for eye, tooth for tooth. So just like I taught you, just like I finished telling you, right? I have to keep repeating myself because I'm speaking to the dead. It's the law, right? So I must impose on the accuser the sentence that they attended for me and my son, and for me and my spouse. So it's eye for eye, tooth for tooth. So your intention is to murder me and my son, and then your intention is to murder my spouse's good name, and then to murder me along with him. So you can steal absolutely everything. With lies, nothing but lies. With vexatious, frivolous, scandalous, without merit, hearings and petitions. And you're such liars, like all you do is lie. See, then all of the righteous will stone them to death. You're finished. The false witness will not go unpunished. No one who utters lies will not escape. Well, every witch involved in the kidnapping of my son and his subsequent trafficking, everyone was a liar. And now the same thing has just happened. Right, Harmon Mangat? Right, Corey Lamont? Yeah, I'm going to be attending your doctor's office with you so I can make sure that you fill out those forms correctly because you're finished. A false witness shall not go unpunished, and he who speaks lies will not escape. Well, I'm sorry, that's the law. So if you're guilty of genocide and you're going to prison for life, there's no point to your life. Like, you're finished, you're done, you're over. And since I'm collecting all of the information pertaining to the kidnapping and subsequent trafficking of my son, I'll have all the names. I'll have all the names of all the witches acting as the BC Supreme Court who trafficked my son. I'll also have the names of the witches who purchased my son, who are also guilty of genocide. And we'll also be going through the assisted suicide public service immediately. So the hands of the witnesses shall be the first upon those who are evil to put them to death. So it's my responsibility to make sure that I'm witnessing you at your doctor's office, and I'll be witnessing the documents that you're going to be filling out. It's a wonderful service here. Because you're going to stop trafficking children to pedophiles in Canada. And you're going to stop stealing widows' houses and embezzling the entire estate, committing acts of genocide. Because that's the law. And I'm your prosecutor. The victim is the prosecutor, and the king is the judge, the king of kings. And I'm not talking about that fucking sewer rat in England who pretends to be something it's not and is never going to be. Would you like some proof of that? Because I've got tons. I'll be happy to shove it down your fucking throat for you if you like. So you've done this to yourselves, right? You've done this to yourselves. And I filled out the forms, and I want that information immediately, right? You've read the private prosecution documents. Oh, and by the way, I don't associate with bar members. So every single guilty person who's aided and abetted genocide against me, or aided and abetted acts of mischief against me, like all of the Saanich pigs and Victoria pigs, who were trying to keep me off my stolen property by continually and repeatedly attacking me, you're guilty of mischief, causing actual danger to my life, and you're going to go to jail for the rest of your lives, and you're going to speak for yourselves, but you have no defense for what you've done because I've caught you on tape. I've got you recorded committing the crimes. And so it's really quite simple. Law and justice works very quickly, and it's very simple. And what an absolutely wonderful service that Canada has available now to those of you who are, children of the devil. Rotten root, rotten fruit. So Daniel Carroll, Hal Hicks, Chelsea Mack, Graham Mack, Susan Bossio, Jennifer Power, something named Johnston, Peter Neely. Yeah, I'm going to be attending your doctor's offices with you. Yeah, I'm afraid so. I'm also going to be writing your last will and testament because my family now becomes the beneficiary of all that you own. Because your families are going to be left with nothing. Nothing. I'm going to do to you and your families what you did to me and my family, and that's the law. It's eye for eye, tooth for tooth, and I have every right to practice my culture here. It says in all these wonderful acts and covenants and conventions Canada's a party to. Yes, it's really wonderful. It's really wonderful, the place that I live, right? And since now we have the Supreme Court of Canada affirming the right to access to justice and freedom of expression, you're not getting around this. 2016, rule of law and right to effective access, well, you're not getting around that either. And since common law supersedes all of your whorehouses in Canada at all federal and provincial levels, there's nothing you can do to stop what's going to be coming upon you. And you're not going to run and hide. Because I'm going to be going into, let's see here, where will I go? Oh, I'm going to go into the Saanich Police Department. And I'm going to gain access to their computers so I can find out what your addresses are. So I can come and pick you up and make sure that I take you to your doctor's appointments. You're not afraid of dying, are you? Because I've created a wonderful playlist for you all. Just so you know what's coming to you, because what you've done to others is going to be done to you. And yeah, I'm afraid that's the way that works. Yeah, I'm afraid that's the way that works. So let's look and see here at the library I've got here. Well, you certainly need to go in and listen to those. Oh, let's see here. 102 videos of eternal hell. Eternal hell is reality for majority 100%. So there's 102 videos here of testimony after testimony after testimony of where you're all going to be headed, because you've all proven to be children of the devil. You've all proven to be weeds. You've all proven to be compulsive liars, murderers, thieves, and destroyers. So you must be removed from the community immediately. And as public servants, you never had any rights at all. What you had were responsibilities, duties, and obligations. And since I have literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of names of arrogant abominations who hate me and my family, who've tried to murder us, well, you've done this to yourselves. And I have the right to practice my culture here. It says so right here in the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. It says it right there, right? It says it right here in the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. So there's no way you're getting out of this. So I suggest you go into these testimonies and listen to what's going to be happening to you, because everything that you cause to happen to me will be happening to you eternally. You're never getting out of it. No, I'm afraid you're not. So that's why I created this playlist especially for you witches. You witches who kidnapped my son and sold him to pedophiles. You witches who committed application and title fraud to steal my house, and then you embezzled $750,000 from me, leaving me homeless and destitute for the last 3 years. So Dean Duthie, I need to see all the files you've got with my name on it. Del Manic, I need to see all the files you've got with my name on it, because there's Brett Cadell. I'm going to be taking Brett Cadell down to its doctor's office. Brett Cadell, you have repeatedly and consistently protected criminals who have stolen from me. I've got it all written down. I've got everything written down. So I've got nothing but proof, and you can't argue with proof. And there is no arguing in the King's Common Law High Court either. Because I don't tell lies about you. You're the liars who tell lies about me, and you do it constantly. So these matters move very swiftly. Because there's no liars and there's no mindless monkeys with their minds just spinning on stupid at all material times. I'm not confused at all. It's you who are confused, because you're the Walking Dead. Yeah, no, you're the Walking Dead. You've overplayed your hand, like a witch will always do. Yeah, witch is right. Join Hoove and Hoove and Hoove, Masonic maggots. All worshippers and servants of the devil, their daddy, their father, Satan. You're so disgusting. I mean, are you serious? Did you think you could shake me? Did you think you could break me? No, it doesn't work like that. See here, I've written it here for you so you can understand what it says. It's in the description box here. Jess Patterson, Linda Thayer, Susan Wishart. Yeah, it's on. I'm afraid so. Genocide, life in prison. You can't even follow your own fucking legal rules. That's how sick and twisted you all are. Right? And as we just learned, that I have right to freedom of expression, because it says right here, Supreme Court of Canada affirms access to justice and freedom of expression. So no one's going to be flagging the video or taking the video down. This is a public service announcement. I'm speaking the judgments that I have to speak, because you did what you did knowing full well what you were doing. Johnny Van Kemp, we're going to be visiting your doctor. Carolyn Book, we're going to be visiting your doctor. You understand that? Wonderful service. Just a wonderful service here in Canada for those who are have no hope and no future. So not one of you has your name listed in the Lamb's Book of Life. Not one of you. And you know I've written it all down, right? But I'm going to go pick it up. I'm going to go pick up all the information, because you're not stopping me from picking any of it up. Right? This is a request. This is a request for every single court record, every exhibit, and the audio recordings pertaining to the kidnapping of my son and his subsequent trafficking. So Robert Higginbottom, you and I are going to be going and visiting your doctor. Something with the last name Chaperone. We're going to be visiting your doctor. Yeah, I remember exactly what you said to me, and I remember exactly what you did to me. And fucking Ernie Quantz, we're going to be go visiting your doctor. Yeah, you've committed genocide. And if you can't even follow your own legal rules, then, you know, you're a danger to yourselves and to the community, and you need to be removed forthwith. So I need all those records, and I need them like right now, without delay, okay? The court recordings are most important, because the court recordings are going to be played as I watch you breathe your last breath. So say Jennifer Power. What you said to me when you were stealing my house, committing an act of genocide against me, that court recording will be played for you as I watched you breathe your last breath. Yep, that's right. Are you listening to me, Lindsay LeBlanc? Lindsay LeBlanc. The court has ordered you and I to attend your doctor's office because you're guilty of genocide. It's a foreign judgment. You're not getting around it, and you're not getting out of it. You know what you did, and you know why you did it. And Emily Bailey will also be attending her doctor's office as well. You committed genocide. You knew exactly what you were doing, and you know why you were doing it. Isn't that right? Murray. Right? That thing named Murray? Yeah, that court recording, that's going to be played for you as I watch you breathe your last breath. Yeah, because we're going to be visiting your doctor's office. You'll be filling out the public service known as assisted suicide. Yeah, because the arrogant are finished. Arrogant abominations have no jurisdiction over me or my family. So on page 105 of this doctorate right here, there's no registry signature on that writ of possession. So how did it get the court stamp on it? How did it get the court seal on it? So that's why I'm going to be taking these foreign judgments down and putting the court seals on them. And then they're going to be paid. And by the way, I don't give a flying fuck about your fucking money. Your money means absolutely nothing, but it means something to you. That lie that you serve, that lie that you worship, it means something to you. So that's why the King of Kings has ordered these judgments. And the King of Kings is well aware. The witch is acting as the province of British Columbia are hoarding billions of dollars. So that's why this $730 million is going to be paid forthwith. And these judgments, by the way, they're going to be listed on Canley. Because I'm going to be shutting down your child trafficking gulag across Canada. I'm shutting it down. Every victim that you have destroyed is going to be coming after you. We're going to be bankrupting your satanic cults you're trying to pass off as provinces, provincial governments, federal governments. We're just going to bankrupt you so you can't keep continuing to do your murdering, thieving, and destroying. So you can't continue to practice the witchcraft that you all are and that you all do. The King of Kings knows who you are and he knows what you are. It's all written in the DSM, right? A child of the devil is born a child of the devil. It's all written down in the depositions I've written for you. That's why this doctorate is right here, right? Because I do believe that quite shortly into the document, I have listed the depositions I've written about what you did and why you did it to me. Right? So this isn't signed, but once I've signed them, they're in full force and effect. So when you open, common law supersedes all legal fiction. Those are the rules of the King's Common Law High Court. Victoria the Trustee's right of survivorship. September 2nd, 2022 PSA. August 25th, 2022 PSA. All of the proof. It's not evidence, it's proof. You're not arguing with proof. You can't get around proof. There's no arguing in the King's Common Law High Court. There's also no animals permitted. There's no witches permitted inside that court. So the king was unwilling to listen to any of your spew, any of your fucking satanic demonic opinions. because he knows who you are and what you are. Do you understand me? Yeah, you're finished. You're finished. So I need that information, and I need it now because I need to start going and making appointments for your doctor with you if you're not going to do it, because you're not getting out of it. Yeah, it's time for the purge. It's time for the purge. Every person is guilty of an indictable offense who commits genocide, a crime against another, or a war crime. Well, that's exactly what you've done. Repeatedly against me and my family, because the wicked hate the righteous and the wicked seek to end the lives of the righteous, and that's why you're doing this to me. Because I know who you are. So the sentence is imprisonment for life. So that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, because there's hundreds of you. And that's a far too great of burden to put on those who stand under the status of taxpayer. So you got to go. You got to go. You got to go. Besides your animals anyway. Right? Animals have no rights in Canada. And I explain the law to you, and I keep explaining it to you, and you're not listening. Right? So did you hear what I just said to you? Because why is there a $1 billion class action suit leveled against a fiction calling itself Attorney General of Canada and a fiction calling itself the Manitoba government? That's not justice at all. It's the persons who hide behind those satanic labels that are responsible for all these acts of genocide and against literally destroying society, righteous society in Canada, because you much prefer wickedness and the wicked to be your society. Well, I'm not going to stand for that. So what is this thing, the Supreme Court of Canada? That doesn't even exist. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. There are persons pretending to be the Supreme Court of Canada. That's what that is. And this is 2022. Affirms access to justice. Well, I'm going to work justice for myself and my family because I don't associate with witches. Members of the Canadian Bar Association, members of the BC Bar Association, the Law Society of BC, you're all witches. Every single one of you. And if you're not, you're guilty by association, because I've never spoken to any of you who knew fucking what to do. Isn't that right, Gurjax? You fucking idiot. Right? So when I post this on YouTube, I'll make sure that I post these links as well so you can understand what's about to happen. Right? So it's just some paperwork I'm going to fill out, right? Isn't that what you did to destroy me and my son? And isn't that what you did to destroy me and my spouse? You just filled out some paperwork? Your ugly paperwork filled with fucking lies, with vexatious, frivolous, without merit, scandalous claims. All of it slander. Slander's murder. Yeah, I'm afraid slander's murder. Right, so where I come from, yeah, we purge the evil from among us, and I have that right in Canada. How wonderful that I live here, right? That I have all these rights, freedoms, and protections. That I'm going to fucking work all over your fucking ugly, compulsive, lying faces. No one's stopping me from that information, by the way, because that's obstruction of justice, and you're not going to be obstructing justice. This is going to move very quickly, and I'm going home. So I'm going to be attending my property to remove the trespassers. And the witches acting as Vic PD and the witches acting as Saanich PD will be standing down. You're going to be standing down. I'll do your jobs for you because you're a bunch of fucking frauds. Yeah, you are. How many times do you have to prove to me who you are and what you are? I know exactly what you are. This is the age of information. Yeah, you're covens of corruption. You're covens of murderers, thieves, and destroyers. You know where they find fucking apparent law enforcement personnel in Canada? They go to the barrel of monkeys and they scrape past the bottom of the barrel. Isn't that right, Mike Duquette? Isn't that right, Jeff Bevington? Isn't that right, Francisco Avales? You kidnapped me out of my house, you puke. You committed an act of genocide, Francisco. I told you my house was being stolen. And instead of going and picking up Bradley Walker and Jay Yoon for an act of genocide, you attacked me. So you're all going to be facing me. We're all going to be face to face because we'll be sitting in your doctor's office together. So you better inform your families of the judgment written against you, because you're not going to continue to treat me like this and continue to keep me off my stolen property. Do we understand each other? The coven pretending to be the Saanich counselors. Saanich council, that's actually a coven, isn't that right? Yeah, just absolutely vile. Right, just like I said, right? As it's written, so it is. The wicked are useless. Jeremiah 13:10, Ezekiel 15:6, and Hosea 7:16. This is a public service announcement. Just